Hello, welcome to I Read This Book with Chris. I am Chris. Today we will be discussing a short story, Naudsonce, H. Beam Piper. There we go. This is coming out of a January 1962 issue of Analog Magazine. And while discussing it, for a drink, I have a Waterloo watermelon sparkling water. Naudsonce. First off, let's start off with this art. This is art illustrated by Mori. There we go. There's your human. Those are your aliens. Some pretty cool looking art. I don't know why this guy wants everyone to look old and ugly, but that's another guy. Lots of wrinkles. Look at that. They not very kind to that lady. These are the alien oxes, their work animals. Let's get to the actual story. The concept of Naudsonce is nothing really new. There's an exploration team landing on planet after planet after planet, trying to find habitable planets to live on. In the past 4 years, this company, or fleet, or whatever it's called, has gone to 11 systems, and out of 11 systems they've landed on 8 planets. It's been 4 years, and this is about their last chance before their trip is over and they are sent back. Their tour of duty. The 8 planets that they landed on, all were technically habitable. One was in the middle of an ice age. One had basically primitive humans on it who were not very happy with this exploration team. And a fight broke out, which killed several on both sides, and they decided probably not worth landing here with these primitive humans. There were a couple where there were large megafauna, which were dangerous, and a couple that were technically habitable. He said basically only the people who wanted to get away from everyone else, only those groups would want to land on these planets. Basically spots for break-off pilgrims or Mormons or any of those groups that just leave and say, we're leaving, we're going to find our own place and run our own little civilization. And this is the last planet that they got a chance to land on and figure out if it's habitable and try to start a civilization there. The issue is this planet has some sort of intelligent life form, and the intelligence is at such a point where, according to their rules and regulations, they are not allowed to just come in. It wouldn't be good. They have to basically sign a treaty with these people saying, hey, you have your lands over here, this other land over here, we can land in and colonize, and so we can, work side by side. But this is a very common concept in a lot of science fiction, is we need to communicate, and the story is about making linguistic contact. So there's a linguist on board, and basically she is trying to figure out how to communicate. But things are not going well at first. Their systems do not seem to... Their language system does not seem to work with ours. Their concepts of how language works seems very confused. And we figure out over time, basically their ears work different. They don't have ears that hear things like we hear them. They have ears that feel things, like the sensation of touch. They describe it like a massage. And so people go and they speak. And they have this fin on the top of their head that is their ear, except their ear doesn't hear things in the way we do, but it gets massaged and it's felt. It takes a while for them to figure this out, because the way their fin works to collect sound their words all sound different. It sounds like they're all speaking their own language, but obviously they can communicate with each other, and they recognize that we are trying to communicate, but things are not working. There's a mashing of these two concepts because our ears and our systems to pick up the sounds work so differently. The whole concept of language played a lot in different sci-fi because it's something that you sort of can't avoid. You either have to do what they do in Hitchhikers, which is there's this brain worm, this earworm, that becomes a universal translator. Like the concept of a universal translator is in so many different sci-fi. You basically have to deal with that. Or everyone speaks the same language. But a lot of time with the universal translators, especially in more modern books, I've noticed, they go and they try to discuss the idea that, oh, other people have different languages, mean these other different things in the way, but it's just sort of like an accent or different cultural differences between the different groups. Like, yeah, but if you meet a Chinese person from China and they speak English, maybe they have different cultural ideas, but now that they speak English and we speak the same language, we can get our ideas across. Maybe there's a little bit of rubbing around the edges, but you can get there. The point where these two languages meet, it is always interesting. And this is definitely not the first short story I've read about it. But I like the idea of there being a different mode, a different organ that picks it up. In Arrival, I believe it's their different concept of time, and so they speak different words. They're like overlapped on each other. And once you learn their language, you can then have a different perception of time. From my understanding of Arrival, that's sort of what it is. And so it sort of plays around in a weird, trippy way, where now that you know their language, you can then see the future and the past and all this other stuff, which is a fun concept. Don't get me wrong, but he plays around with it in a different way. Piper does. There is this sound. They go and they are building a camp too, and as part of their camp, they're setting up a water tower, and they have a pump that brings from the stream up to their water tower. From there, it can pipe wherever. And apparently, the pump that they use to bring up to their water tower lets off a sound that is basically a drug for all of these aliens. Their fin that they have is so sensitive, and it feels so good. Basically, they're all just drugged out. They all get close, and they just sit there, attracted to whatever this sound is. If you have a different physiology and you hear things in this way, apparently they have seen, using their little drones hovering over, and they've watched the stuff go on this little town, in this little village, and they've seen how people communicate, and whenever there's a big public row, a decision to be happened, everyone goes together and they have arguments, and there's just sort of crazy noise all at once, and all of a sudden, usually in the center, people agree on something. All of a sudden, everyone is then the same, and they call it like a wave spreading out from the center out, where people agree on something. All of a sudden, bam! Imagine two people going and singing in harmony, and all of a sudden, the third person joins, and a fourth. It's like that, where the more people that join, all of a sudden, everyone else is then brought into harmony because of the strength of the harmony inside. That's sort of the concept he's dealing with here. Their language has all these powers to them because of the way that it works and the way that it's connected straight to their central nervous system. Where if you're happy and you sing happy, the people who hear it then makes them happy or happier, and the more people that then go and they're singing about whatever, you can then go and basically mob dynamics if everyone agreed to this thing all at once. So then the pump becomes their drug. Whatever the sounds are in this pump lets them all relax. It's a fun story. Definitely not something you need to pick up unless you are someone who wants to collect these linguistic first contact stories. Because you definitely could make quite a collection out of Arrival, and I mean, several of my short story collections have stories that are somewhat like this, but I do like the different idea that Piper brought. Alrighty, thanks for watching.